For decades, the beauty industry followed a simple formula: show flawless models, promote perfect skin, sell an ideal that millions of women aspired to. Almost every major beauty brand followed the same playbook, and it worked. Then, in 2004, Dove did something that almost nobody expected. Instead of celebrating perfect beauty, it started celebrating real beauty. Real women, real bodies, real stories. It wasn't just another advertising campaign. It was a complete shift in how the brand came to be perceived, even to this date. But why would a company deliberately walk away from the industry's most successful marketing formula? Was it simply trying to do the right thing? Or was there a much smarter business strategy behind it? That's exactly what we're going to investigate today. So let's start with understanding what beauty really meant in the years before 2004. For almost 50 years, beauty advertising followed one simple idea. Beauty wasn't something you already had. It was something you had to become. In the 1950s, brands sold the image of the perfect housewife: polished, graceful, and always immaculate. By the 1960s and 70s, the styles changed, but the message remained surprisingly similar. Stand out, look youthful, express yourself, become more beautiful. Then came the 1980s. Beauty became power. Campaigns celebrated bold makeup, strong shoulders, and larger-than-life confidence. The perfect look became a symbol of success. Then, in the 1990s, fashion magazines introduced a more minimalist aesthetic. Natural colors replaced bright ones. But perfection never disappeared. It simply became quieter. Then, by the early 2000s, celebrity culture exploded. Supermodels, Hollywood actresses, pop stars. Every major beauty campaign promised the same thing: buy this product and maybe you could look like them. Different products, different celebrities, but almost identical messaging. For decades, the beauty industry had been competing on the same aspiration. Who could sell the most desirable version of beauty? And that created a major problem, not just for the consumers, but even for the brands themselves. If every brand promised perfection, how could any brand truly stand out? By 2004, the beauty industry had become incredibly crowded. Every campaign looked familiar. Every advertisement felt polished. Every brand was chasing the same ideal. And although Dove was already a well-known brand, its growth had begun to slow as competition intensified. The challenge wasn't that Dove made a poor product. The challenge was that consumers had very little reason to choose Dove over everyone else. The brand needed something much harder to copy than another moisturizer or another polished campaign. It needed a completely different position in consumers' minds. And to build that, it had to sell something that consumers deep down wanted. And so, instead of guessing, Dove decided to ask them directly. So together with Ogilvy, the brand commissioned one of the largest global studies on women's perceptions of beauty. More than 3,000 women across multiple countries were surveyed. The results were startling. Only 2% of women described themselves as beautiful, and nearly 70% felt that the women shown in advertisements and magazines represented an unrealistic standard that they could never truly achieve. For Dove, this wasn't just another market research report. It revealed something much deeper. For decades, the beauty industry has been telling women what beauty should look like. But very few women actually saw themselves reflected in that definition. And now, Dove saw an opportunity to occupy a position that no other beauty brand owned. Instead of asking, how do we persuade women that our definition of beauty is the one they should aspire to, Dove asked a completely different question. What if we celebrated the beauty they already have? That question changed everything, because Dove wasn't simply changing its advertising, it was changing its positioning. The brand shifted away from competing on product claims and celebrity endorsements and began competing on something much harder to imitate: emotional meaning. It wasn't trying to sell the promise of becoming beautiful. It was championing the idea that beauty already exists in ordinary women. That idea became known as the Real Beauty campaign. And interestingly, the very first campaign barely talked about Dove's products at all. Instead, it featured 6 ordinary women, not professional models, standing confidently in simple white undergarments. Beneath each image was a question inviting the public to vote. Fat or fab? Wrinkled or wonderful? Gray or gorgeous? For perhaps the first time, a beauty advertisement wasn't asking people to admire perfection. It was asking them to question the very definition of beauty itself. The campaign wasn't designed to end the conversation. It was designed to start one. And that's exactly what happened. Almost immediately, the campaign began generating conversations far beyond traditional advertising. News outlets debated it. Talk shows discussed it. Universities analyzed it. People argued over it. Some praised Dove for finally representing ordinary women. Others questioned whether a beauty brand had any place defining what beauty should look like. But whether people loved it or criticized it, they were talking about Dove. And for any brand trying to stand out in a crowded market, that alone was significant. But the campaign didn't just generate attention, it generated business results. Dove's annual sales grew from around $2 billion to over $4 billion over the next 3 years, while the brand became one of the most recognized personal care brands in the world. More importantly, Dove had achieved something far more valuable than a successful advertisement. It had established a position that consumers immediately understood. While many beauty brands continued competing over who could promise younger skin, clearer skin, or more glamorous beauty, Dove began owning an entirely different conversation: real beauty. And instead of treating it as a one-time campaign, Dove doubled down. Over the next 2 decades, it continued building on the same idea: evolution. Real Beauty Sketches, The Self-Esteem Project, Reverse Selfie. Different campaigns, different stories, but the same underlying belief. That consistency transformed Real Beauty from an advertising campaign into the identity of the brand itself. Of course, the campaign wasn't without criticism. Some argued that Dove's definition of real beauty still excluded many women. Others pointed to the contradiction of Dove belonging to Unilever, a company whose portfolio included brands that had previously promoted very different beauty ideals. These criticisms were real and worth acknowledging, but they didn't change one fundamental fact. Dove had successfully differentiated itself in one of the most crowded industries in the world. Which brings us to the most interesting question of all. Why did it resonate so deeply with millions of women? Because changing an advertisement doesn't automatically change how people feel. So why did simply replacing supermodels with ordinary women create such a powerful emotional response? The answer lies in 2 fascinating principles of consumer psychology. For decades, beauty advertisements presented women with the same kind of image: flawless models, perfect skin, celebrity faces, professionally styled, heavily airbrushed. These advertisements weren't simply trying to sell a moisturizer or a beauty cream. They were repeatedly presenting an ideal of what beauty was supposed to look like. And as humans, we naturally compare ourselves with the people we see around us. When those comparisons are with friends or colleagues, they can sometimes motivate us. But when they're with carefully curated, almost impossible standards of beauty, the effect is very different. Instead of feeling inspired, many people begin feeling inadequate. Psychologists have spent decades studying this tendency, and it's known as social comparison theory. The idea that we constantly evaluate ourselves by comparing ourselves with others. For decades, traditional beauty advertising encouraged this kind of upward social comparison. Women weren't comparing themselves with everyday people. They were comparing themselves with professionally styled, carefully selected, and often heavily retouched celebrities and models. The message was never stated explicitly, but it was always implied. This is what beauty looks like. And naturally, many women began asking themselves, why don't I look like that? And then, Dove broke that pattern. Instead of showing women someone they wished they could become, it showed them someone they could recognize. That small change did something remarkable. The advertisement stopped feeling like an impossible standard and started feeling relatable. And as people, we naturally connect more strongly with brands whose messages align with their own identity and self-image. This is reinforced with self-congruity theory. The closer a brand feels to who we believe we are, or who we genuinely aspire to be, the stronger our emotional connection with that brand becomes. For perhaps the first time, many women looked at a beauty advertisement and didn't think, I wish I looked like her. Instead, they thought, she looks like me. That small shift became powerful. The advertisement no longer felt like a reminder of what they lacked. It felt like recognition. It felt authentic. And authenticity builds trust. Dove wasn't asking women to become someone else. It was validating the beauty they already saw or wanted to see in themselves. And that's what transformed the campaign from just another advertisement into a message that millions of women genuinely connected with. It became a brand people could genuinely relate to. And that's where the story becomes much bigger than beauty. It's a lesson in branding. For decades, most beauty brands competed by making better product claims. Whiter skin, younger skin, fewer wrinkles, more hydration. The assumption was simple: build a better product and convince consumers that it performs better than everyone else's. Dove chose a completely different path. Instead of competing solely on product claims, it sought to develop a deeper meaning behind the brand. Now, consumers weren't just buying a beauty bar. They were buying into an idea they believed in. And that's an important distinction. Products can be copied. Ingredients can be copied. Even advertising campaigns can eventually be copied. But owning a unique position in consumers' minds, that is much harder to replicate. That's why, more than 20 years later, Dove is still building campaigns around the same idea. Not because one campaign happened to be successful, but because it became the foundation of the brand itself. And that's the biggest lesson for every business. The strongest brands don't just compete on what they sell. They compete on what they come to represent. That's all for today's thought experiment. If this analysis gave you a new way of thinking, consider subscribing for more explorations into business, behavior, and psychology. Until next time, stay curious.